Good evening and welcome to the third edition of the 2021-2022 season for the Magpie Circle with our live shows. And pre-season is going really well for us because this must be the first time we've ever had Les on, our club record goal scorer, and we've managed to get all his bits and pieces working and not having to start 5 minutes late. So that may well have caught some of you on the hop. So get logged in quick because we are starting on time. Record club scorer Les Brad, delighted to have you on board. And of course, we'll be looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Sunday because that was the second time you've seen Notts this season.
Yeah, lovely to be asked to come back on again, Paul. It's always a joy to speak with you and Chloe as well. And Sunday, I watched the very first game of pre-season over at Colville, where there was a team play for the first half and a team for the second half. And obviously it was all about match fitness. And yesterday, I think we probably saw the I call him the manager. I think he's probably got a different title, but probably he was looking to get together the group would as near as possible to start the season, just to look to see how it was going. And I was very impressed, to be honest. We're up against a team 3 leagues above us, lots of quality in there. Who I thought that their passing was top rate, crisp, sharp, always on the front foot. But they start the season next week. We've still got another 3 weeks to go, so they're in advance of us as well, and we have to respect that. But I thought we put on a great show yesterday. There was a good 10-minute spell in the first half, and second half we had probably a good 20 minutes in there. We had a few chances, but I think the manager will be very, very impressed with how it came out yesterday.
Everyone seems very, very positive at the minute. Plenty of messages already coming in. Good evening from Stephen Orton, Kyle Sadler, Paul Sills, I'm not quite sure how I pronounced that anyway. Chris Jordan, Colin Metcalf says, very impressed with what I saw Sunday. It will be a massive mistake if we don't sign a proven striker, though, to go with the impressive additions we already have, as this is the final piece of the jigsaw. We'll be getting the latest on Cairo Mitchell from Chesterfield, a story broken by Lee Curtis, who's having a night off after his exertions in Nottingham yesterday, and probably more to the point, he was at the Lee Wood fight going late into the night on Saturday, and congratulations to Lee. We're all watching it in Gedling. He's a Gedling boy, and great performance, great result, and really I think a life-changing 11 rounds, 1 minute and 52 seconds or whatever it was. Richard Hawksworth says, Super Cal looking sharp touch. Woody and Burchnall thought the display yesterday was impressive. Another proven striker is a must. David Clarkson. Now, David David's interesting. Derby fan, but he keeps an eye out for us. As a Derby fan, thought we bossed most of the game. He's got that in. But he adds, I truly wish Notts well for the season ahead. Matt Ben Notts thought we played very well yesterday, midfield especially. Chloe Page, I hope you've summered well, Chloe. I know you're busy in the ticket office. The first question is, did Ian Burchnall buy you a beer in the Navy after your shift finished yesterday?
He didn't, but I was in the Nav and I did have a chat to him afterwards. He was walking out. He just got a beer and sat down, and then I had a quick chat with him after the game, but he was all happy, so I think everybody was after the game, really. But no pints.
Yeah. Was it a surprise when he walked in then?
Well, I saw him actually. He came to the ticket office, I think it was last week, and we had a chat, and he's a really great guy, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, and didn't expect to see him in the Nav, to be totally honest. I think he was with a group of his mates, but I think it shows you a lot. He was happy to speak to everyone. I saw over social media, everyone was having photos, so it's great to see that he's kind of getting involved.
Yeah, he wasn't with Cairo Mitchell, was he?
No, not that I saw anyway.
Now you've like Les in a couple of the games. We were at Boston with your granddad. Very nice little facility at Boston. So what do you make of Boston and Derby in terms of performances for those two games?
Yeah, I think Boston probably wasn't as much of a test as I thought it'd be. I was going into the game, this was my first game. I hadn't seen any of the trialists, and obviously a couple had dropped off even before I got to the Boston game. And I think it was Bennett that had played a couple, didn't see any of him. And I thought that, not that we'd struggle, but it'd be a bit more of a test for us. But I think we were, especially in the first half, very comfortable. And then second half, it was a case of keep it going, getting some minutes into legs. And then Derby, I was really impressed. I know they had a lot of young lads playing, trialists, etc., because everyone knows what's kind of gone off over in Derby. But I was really impressed with kind of every position, even through to defence. I think you take the goals out of it. One was, I probably put it down to, as a bit of a keeper error. I can't really slate Slocum because I still think he's one of the best keepers in the league. And like Les says, we've still got a few weeks yet, so I don't imagine they're all match fit. And he played, I think, did he play the full 90 minutes as well? But yeah, and then you take the penalty out of it and we've matched them. So I think we can take out of it a lot more than they can. And like Les says again, we have got another few weeks yet. And I think if we're playing like that against kind of someone that's 3 leagues above us that should be a lot further into their preseason we can take a lot from that.
Plenty. It's a busy show tonight. Ian Burchnall, the fan, not the manager. Palmer was standout performance yesterday. Outstanding game. Josh Chambers went to the game yesterday, was very entertaining. The squad that will most likely be starting played very well. But we have also got Ruben to come back, and Matty Palmer looks class. Carl Sadler think it shows that we're feeling positive after the game against Derby and how nicely we're ticking along. Mark Leach, who was complaining the other week that his messages always get deleted, and I promise it wasn't by us. He's saying Notts should be going for Shimanga, Cheek, and that type of striker, not Cairo Mitchell from Chesterfield, as he's not a proven goal scorer at this level, nor has he had the game time at Chesterfield. Well, other than that one, we're all pretty positive at the minute, Leslie. I'll tell you what was good as well. Oh, blimey, hang on. One of the shirts has just gone down. I don't know. Who's that? Oh, dear me. Just collapsed. You see the show is live. I've lost my train of thought now. Yes, I thought what was very positive. Good crowd, nearly 5,000 for a game. First week of August, when even allowing for travel bans abroad, a lot of people will be away domestically. I thought that was a very good crowd, and you could see the enjoyment, the passion. Most of us will be back in our normal seats. Obviously, for the Chesterfield game, we had to be in allocated seats, but yesterday we could have our season ticket seats, see people we haven't seen for quite a while. And I think I saw you suited and booted, Les, so I'm guessing you were taking 1 or 2 corporates around. What sort of atmosphere, mood did you detect sort of among the rank and file yesterday?
Yeah, I was back in my role as hospitality, and I was going around the guests, and the room was very busy. There was in excess of 100 people there enjoying a pre-match brunch. And it was great to get back and speak with people who haven't seen since what was the last game of the season before last, I think it was, before we've had hospitality open. And it was wonderful. Everybody was looking forward with anticipation in seeing the football again. And no, it was great. And I think what probably did me little bit of good as well. At half time, I bumped into Steve McLaren, who had known when I was over at Forest, and I just said, "How do you think it's going?" He says, "I'm very surprised at how much football Notts County are playing, and they're doing it the right way. And good luck to them this season." I thought that was good words coming from him. He respected our style of play and what we're trying to achieve. So that was a plus, wasn't it?
Because has he got a role back at Derby again now?
He's director of football at Derby County now.
That's right. That's right. I thought I'd read somewhere he'd gone back in.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my clients, I think, as I mentioned last week, Real Betis were over at St George's Park last week. So I've managed to see 4 games in the last 6 days since I was last with you all. So I actually saw Derby beat Real Betis. And then very entertainingly at Loughborough University on Saturday, they have like a small pitch that holds 4,000 to 5,000 there, little mini stadium on Loughborough campus. Saw Betis beat Leeds. I think it was 3-2. Very entertaining game. And it's one of them matches, when you watch Leeds, they're entertaining anyway. But watching Bielsa on the touchline, sat on his little upturned bucket, is, I have to say, absolutely hilarious. I'm sure Jimmy was animated in his day, Les, but I have to say, I think Bielsa takes it to a new level. And he's swearing away or whatever he's doing in Spanish or whatever. And of course, I'm not really sure whether any of the players understand a word of it. It's quite hilarious watching him. And there's certainly no such thing in his vocabulary as a friendly. I can promise you. Yeah, he only looked happy all day when he shook hands with Manuel Pellegrini, and that who's the Betis manager. That was about it. Chloe, we are all. Oh, I love this. Let me read this one out. Chris Jordan, yeah, great linkage. As Harry Kane didn't turn up for training with Spurs today, do you think that would explain Ian Burchnall's coy response to Lee Curtis's enquiries about a striker? Harry Kane or Cairo Mitchell, Chloe? Who would you go for?
I mean, it's a tough one, but I think I'd probably edge towards Kane just a little bit more proven.
One of the big things, so let's talk Cairo Mitchell, because it's sparking a lot of debate. So Lee Curtis, normally with us on a Monday, but we've given him a night off. So he's run a story this afternoon, and I believe he has it from a source that there is a definite interest. Now that doesn't mean Notts are going to sign him. I am sure that Ian would have lots of irons in lots of fires. His intimation to Lee in the player interview, in the club interview that I presume a lot of us watched yesterday, was that he would be relatively hopeful and focusing their attentions on one more incoming, potentially within the next 7 days, and the inference is it's a striker. I'm not sure too many of us know anything about Cairo Mitchell, in honest. I doubt any of us have seen him play recently, so it's difficult to comment. The identity of one new signing potentially in the next week as a striker, is that what you would be, inverted commas, ideally looking for? It certainly seems to be a common theme among a lot of supporters.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one, because I think for everyone, and especially Ian Burchnall's, Kyle Wotton's number one, and everyone knows that. And the formation that we're playing, and I imagine we're going to stick to, is one up front, maybe with Ruben playing alongside him for some parts of the season, like he did towards the end of last season. But it's always difficult because everybody wants that proven goal scorer. Everybody's looking for one, no matter what league you're in, and it's always going to be difficult to find one. As well as that, it's always hard to attract one of these proven record players, obviously without a big kind of budget for them. But I also think it's difficult because maybe they think I'm not going to get the game time here, because Kyle Wotton is our number one at the minute, kind of one of the first names on the team sheet. And if we're not going to play with 2 up front, somebody's going to have to go on the bench. So it's always difficult to kind of attract someone of that kind of demeanour, and to say you've got to earn your place over Wotton. So you might start on the bench until either maybe there's an injury or a drop of form. And then, so do you go for someone that's kind of not all of this proven, but they're going to sit on the bench anyway? It's just really difficult, because I don't think we can flog Wotton like we did last season. I think there was a lot of pressure on him, and he played virtually every game, and it's a lot to ask anyone. Or do you look at a lone player who is going to need some game time? But it's really difficult from Ian's perspective as well. It must be, because if you want to sign someone that's going to get you another 20 goals, you either make room for them in your formation and you go out and you spend a little bit of money on them, or you get someone that maybe kind of looks into the statistics of people and go for someone a little bit obscure and kind of give them a chance every now and again, keep them on the bench, and then if Kyle does need a rest, get them in. But it's really difficult. Everybody wants that 20, 30 goals a season player, of course they do, but they're very difficult to find and they cost you a lot of money. And I think at the minute, people would rather stick with our formation and then maybe see what we can bring in that is going to just add to that, really.
Well, look, who better to talk goal power, goal threat and Notts County than the club's all-time record-leading goal scorer, Leslie Brad. Les, come on, let's have your two penneth on this whole striking situation. It's not about going into specifics with Cairo because, you know, everyone does trial by Wikipedia and all the rest of it. But looking at what we've got at the minute, and clearly the objective here is, I would imagine, playoffs at worst, promotion. Where do you think we are with goal capability and goal threat?
Well, I think we're all beginning to understand what Ian Burchnall's about and what team he wants Notts County to be, how he wants them to form and attack. And I'm pretty sure he knows what type of player he is looking for to help the squad along the way to score goals, whether that means that person scoring 20 goals a season, which I believe is very difficult to find, or whether it means sticking another 10 goals on Ruben Rodriguez, on Callum Roberts. Going back to my days, we had 5 players score double figures when we got promotion 50 years ago. And I think the team is far better that has multiple goal scorers than, shall I say, one goal scorer, because I believe opposition teams find that a little, shall we say, easier to mark and deal with than when goals are coming from all over. We had Quickmore, we had Nixon, we had Haitley, myself, Don Masson, and that's a real handful, going to score goals. So I'm sure Ian knows what he's looking for, and whether that player is going to score him a dozen goals a season, I think is irrespective, as long as the team and the tactics that he employs works around that player and with the rest of the players. That's the most important thing.
Plenty of comments coming in. ZO enjoyed yesterday, but still feel we may need another centre midfielder who is more physical, a Harding or Ravenhill type, to allow Palmer, etc. to play, particularly in the National League. NCFC Pie, evening all, great match on Sunday. At times didn't know who were the championship team. Shame about the result, but great performance to say how far into pre-season we are. Shafitab says, may I remind everyone that Wooden wasn't a proven goal scorer when we signed him. He's only ever scored goals for us. NCFC Pie, great to see Roberts looking sharp and not hesitating to go in for a late tackle. Previously, he would have avoided at all costs, but good to see confident in his body, which will be massive for us. Kyle Sadler, I'm back in a fellow Kyle all the way here. Chloe, new signings. Matty Palmer has been one of the more marquee signings, shall we say, and I think he got a lot of plaudits for yesterday's performance when many fans would have been seeing him for the first time on his home debut.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's one of them that he came and everyone kind of expected him to be kind of good from the get-go, having played in the league, and I think he's just going to prove what he can do, and I think he's going to be kind of fit in very well, make a starter week in, week out. And I'm just looking forward to see him, to be honest. I think he's going to be a really key role this season. I also was surprised by that Francis. I thought he played really well on Sunday against Derby. And then obviously to mention Kyle Cameron, I said to you, Paul, I've made an early prediction of my player of the season, but having seen it half an hour at Boston, and I I think he looks like an all-round player. I know he played on the left wing against us, and he fancied his chances a little bit against Derby as well, which is what you love to see. Like Les says, you want players to score from all over the pitch. Ellis did it for us last season, and I'm hoping Kyle Cameron can kind of step in and get maybe 4 or 5 from corners, from crosses, from wherever he can, to be honest. But yeah, I'm impressed with all of the new signings, to be honest.
Yeah, and of course, I'll mention it before anyone else sends a note in. Of course, he got man of the match. It was announced with about 7 minutes to go, and with 6 minutes 30 left of the game, he concedes a penalty from which Derby scored the second. Oh dear me! I sometimes wonder why we don't make that announcement, at least just 30 seconds before the end of the game or something in a less moment. I remember when I was at Leicester, I was talking to the various managers, and we stopped doing it for that reason, because it gets announced. It used to get announced at Leicester in about the 75th minute, and people like Brian Little say, "Well, you can't announce that." And the theory was, in case people are asking why, sponsors or whoever would want the maximum coverage for the announcement of their award. But I do wonder if there's an argument that final whistle goes, then announce the man of the match. But anyway, it's a friendly. It doesn't really matter. Leslie, what do you think of our new signings?
I was very impressed with the lads in midfield. I haven't got to know all the names yet. I'm like everybody else watching them for the first time. I think all that have been brought into the squad have improved the squad. And it's just about getting time together on the pitch in matches to get to know what each player does, where they want the ball, do they want it to feet, do they want it in space, and you only get to know that by playing regularly together. And it's important now that that's the start of it that we saw yesterday, and there's another big game on Saturday against York, and then Solihull, and then hopefully we've got the group together, all knowing how each other plays, how they want the ball, and we go forward into that first game with Barnet. I've been impressed with each player that I've seen so far.
It is a bit ironic. We're all getting very excited, Chloe. It is actually the best part of 3 weeks to kick off, isn't it? Everyone else kicks off before we do. So it is 2 weeks and 5 days. I don't know if you're working in the ticket office. We've had fantastic season ticket sales. There is unquestionably, in part because of returning from COVID, but I think it's a bit more than that. There is a huge goodwill feeling, and I think an awful lot of confidence floating around Notts. The away shirts have been basically, I think adult sizes are largely sold out now. So everything seems to be at this moment full steam ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great feel around kind of the environment within the ground, and then the fans getting back. And I've spoken to a lot of people, and I think kind of COVID, as well as the style of football we're playing, it's exciting. It's getting you off your seats, even in flashes against Derby. And you saw Callum Roberts come back, and he looks like he hasn't been a kind of a part for us for the last year and a half. And there's just a great feeling about it. And I really got a good feeling we're going to travel well this season. I know there's quite a lot of grounds that people haven't been to. Obviously, our seasons have been cut short a little bit. We've got a couple of clubs still coming down, kind of old grounds that we can visit as well. But yeah, and really good atmosphere. And I think everyone's just really looking forward to kind of a little bit more normality. And then it's just good to be speaking about football again. It was a really good atmosphere in the Nav after the game, even though we'd lost. I think people were only talking positively about it, and kind of getting their train tickets booked for Barnet and getting the coaches booked and hotels for Weymouth. And so, yeah, like you say, full steam ahead, but I'm definitely looking forward to this season.
Leslie, Callum Roberts, I think it's, don't need to be mastermind to work out that for us to be truly successful this season, it is not unreasonable to assume that Callum Roberts needs to be firing and playing quite a lot of the games. What were your thoughts regards seeing Kel play on Saturday? It is a long injury, or it's a long time he's been out injured. I don't know whether you've had a chance to speak to him much at all with COVID protocols. There is going to be a big weight of expectancy on him in every respect this season.
Yeah, well, I think that's something that goes with the territory of being a professional footballer. I spoke to Cal a couple of weeks ago. He's had concerns with his health prior to the Hartlepool match, following the Hartlepool match, and he just wanted this, whatever it was, sorted out. And I saw him 2 or 3 weeks ago down at Notts, and he was buzzing. He was on top of the world. He'd had clear to move forward with everything else. He'd had a chat with the manager about his role in the team, and he was just absolutely buzzing. Couldn't wait to get started. He says we're going to have a fantastic season this season. The managers want us to score 4 goals every game, so I know that doesn't happen, but it's a boost to a forward player, particularly a game changer like Cal. Reminds me very much of a young Tommy Johnson just coming into Notts County. Tommy came as a left winger. He got Neil Warnock, converted him into a free role, buzz to the left, to the right, get past the striker and stick the ball in the net. And I think that's what we'll see plenty of from Cal this season. I just hope everything goes for him with his health, because he will win us a lot of games. He is a very, very good player.
Yeah, I think it's, without giving too many trade secrets away, I think it did take a little while for the exact nature of Kel's complaint and the problems he was having coming back, breaking down again, to be accurately or to find the actual epicenter of the problem. But that would appear to have been solved, dealt with. And Chloe, when we were at Boston, on he comes, and within a matter of minutes, there's a short corner.
Yeah, it's just one of them that my heart dropped on Sunday when he started hobbling, and I think the ground went silent for about 5 seconds, and you just thought it can't be happening again. We need him this season. It's vital that he's in the side and that he's keeping fit. And I think everyone, it was kind of head in hands moment. Can he run it off? It's just before half time. Can he make it to half time? Is he going to come out second half? And I think it showed a lot when he came out second half, because I know Ian would not be taking any chances with him. And then he came back out, and it was kind of a big relief for everyone in the ground and the management. It must be for the players as well, but he's going to be absolutely vital. One of them, again, we keep going back to that. It's so important that we've got a lot of goal scorers in the team. I kind of look back to when we lost Thomas and Dennis, and a lot of the talk was we never replaced those. And now if you're having Ruben start like he was playing the end of last season, and now you've got Callum Roberts back, I think we're getting them goals back up again without signing a striker. So if we can get someone in on loan, or like we say, on a permanent basis, we're going to just keep adding to that. But it's vital that both of them keep fit and then keep performing like they have been doing. And I think we'll be all right. I kind of look at Wrexham, and I know there's the big talk with kind of who they've signed and 32 goals last season or however many he scored. But that's a lot of pressure on one man's shoulders. And I think we've got a team rather than individuals. Obviously, you can pick a couple of individuals out like Roberts and Wotton and Rodriguez, but we have got more of a team. And as long as we're kind of playing that way, chipping in goals from everywhere, then I think we do stand a better chance than people like Wrexham, who have come out, bought one star player and the rest, and we'll just see. But I am looking forward to the season. There's definitely a good feel about it.
As Matt Bennots points out to me, yeah, Telford, not Boston, when he scored the short corner. Yeah, they're all merged into. I've already done 9 games this season, so apologies. David Henton, Kelder knew Tommy Johnson. And Ian Burchnall makes the same point as you did, Chloe. I did hold my breath when Kel started limping in the first half. Club captain, Leslie. Kyle Cameron has been announced. Thoughts on that? How important is a captain in the modern day game? You, of course, had, I think it's fair to say, a tough taskmaster as club captain for many years. Jimmy's lieutenant on the pitch, a certain Donald Masson. How important is captain, being given the captain's armband in this day and age, do you think?
I think it's important to have 11 captains. Each player has to have a responsibility. And I think it's each player's responsibility to get onto some player if they're not doing what they should be doing. And that player should accept that and understand and move on as well. But overall, it is necessary to have a skipper on the pitch. It didn't always work out as we wanted it to. Don, as you say, was our captain, and he was very good at being able to assess players. In Jimmy's words, footballers are like horses. There are dray horses and there are thoroughbreds. The thoroughbreds you can't whip and kick. You have to stroke them and talk to them nicely. The dray horses, you can get on to kick them. And Don knew who he could get onto with his mouth and who to leave alone. And it worked pretty well. We didn't always see eye to eye. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about players through the team with our captain. But we got there in the end. The captain is a very important role. He's got to steer that team through good times, bad times. It's very important.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember when we were looking after Vauxhall sponsorship of England and the home nations, and I was fortunate to travel the world, and we'd have a lot of talks with opposition journalists from other countries, and they were always very surprised about the importance that we in England, British football, attach to captaincy. Continental approach, by and large, not fussed about a captain. They all kind of were relatively self-motivated, relatively self-policed. I guess one exception would be Chiellini with Italy, where clearly he's kind of like a British style leader. But I do think in England, the captain is an important role, and that you want a character and a figure who can lead by example, a good talker, can encourage, but can also give a bit of stick out when it's needed. I think you've already said earlier, Chloe, you are already a big Kyle Cameron fan and presumably would endorse his appointment as captain.
Yeah, like you say, I've always seen captain as an important role, and it's so important that he's on kind of the same wavelength as the assistant manager, the head coach, and he's relaying the same information and they're all on the same page. And I think it's also really important for kind of the younger players. They need someone on that pitch to look up to. They can't always be looking over at the sidelines, and it's really important that he's kind of got the players' backs, but at the same time, like, can kind of whip him into shape if need be. But as long as he's on the same page as kind of the management and the people on the sidelines, it's always going to help. It's always great to have more than one leader on the pitch, but it's also nice to have that one standout player that everyone can kind of look for guidance. And from kind of interviews that I've seen and the way he the style of football he plays and just how he carries himself on the pitch. I think it's kind of a perfect appointment. I like the fact that Wotton's there as a vice captain. I think that's a really important role for him and how he sees himself in the team and in the club. And I think he's kind of definitely earned that over the seasons that he's played for us. So it's definitely nice to see. But yeah, I'm definitely happy with the two appointments in the captain and the vice captain.
Yeah, and I think
if I could just come in there, Paul, as an example of a captain and take you back to last year. We played Dagenham and we're 1-0 up very early on, and Sam Slocum gets sent off, and our captain Mike Doyle comes and takes the gloves and the shirt, goes in the goal. I think everybody's sitting there thinking this is going to be 1-1 and we're playing the rest of the game 10 against 11. He saves the goal and goes up to the penalty taker, stares him in the eye and lets him know. And I think that message transferred to all of the team, because we went and played the remaining 80 minutes like we got an extra man. I've never seen a game like it. And I'm sure that was Mike Doyle that had put that through the rest of the team in his actions that evening.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on the point I was just about to make, Les, is that obviously Michael Doyle has filled that role for quite a while, quite an inspirational leader. And of course, he's not going to be having much game time. He's most likely going to be in the dugout. So I think it is important that you have a figure on the pitch that the players can respect, look up to, I think also, mental strength is going to be important in this league. National League away from home on a Tuesday night at Dover. It is an unremitting fixture schedule that we're going to be having, and we can't always play champagne football, knock it around, low block, high block, rotating this, that, and the other, and winning 3-0. You think back probably to last season, probably the one result that sticks out where we kind of battled was the 1-0 win at Wrexham, where we scored in the first half, and then we had to put in an awful lot of defensive overtime at the back. And Chloe mentioned about us doing well away from home. For us to be successful next season, we're probably going to need to win 7 or 8 away games like that. We won't be winning lots and lots of away games, 3 or 4-0 away from home. So I think Kyle kind of has that identikit quality, and certainly every man's going to need to stand up and be counted. Chris Jordan says, I get the impression that IB and his team have worked hard on finding the right characters for the squad's unity and spirit, just as much as their football abilities. I think that's a very good point. Zedo, next striker in is massive for the season, maybe biggest signing of all. Pattern of play needs someone in box on end of our approach play, down channels. Wotton needs someone else to help shoulder burden. Killer line, Cameron is a player that opposition fans dislike but would love in their team. Great choice. Moddy Moby, captain-wise, good choice. I thought Job GOB, I have to translate, Jim O'Brien might have got it, but I can't fault Cam and vice-captain as Wotton. That shows their characters. I like how we are thinking about the future as a club by signing these talented younger players. Regarding character, time will tell. As a team, their vision is promotion, so they share that vision. Matt Ben Knotts, just to mention, for Chickson yesterday, came on at half-time and played well, adds something extra. Leslie, of course, we're strengthening. I think it's fair to say clubs like Stockport and Wrexham are spending an awful lot of cash. They're strengthening as well. Player that I believe, according to my son, Stockport have brought in today. Centre half at Notts are on a loan spell. I think it was Brighton. The year we went down, Ben Barkley has come in with league experience with them. Wrexham, we know, have made some big money signings. What's your view on the complexion and the challenge that Notts face in the National League as a whole this season?
Well, when you look at the National League for this season, the names of the teams there on paper look very strong. What we don't know is what they're made up of. We got relegated 2 years ago. We came up with players, Christian Dennis, didn't we? Kurt Hemmings. All of these players were buzzing around that season that we got relegated. It just didn't do us any good. But and also, if you look at the teams that have got promoted from the National League over the last 2 years, are they clubs that have signed players, big name players, or are they clubs that have been working for a period of time and moved on from there? I'm talking like Sutton United. Were they expected to be where they were last year? The year before that, Barrow. And these have had settled groups of players to work with and move on. So it is going to be a very, very difficult season. You say we've Wrexham, Stockport, and on top of that, Grimsby, Southend. So that top half of the table is going to be very, very tough. And I read in the paper last week about people lobbying the Football League to try and get another promotion place from the National League. Whether that will happen, it certainly won't happen next year, but whether that's to come or not, I don't know. There are there's a number of very strong named teams now in the National League. At one time it was classed as a part-time league, but for me it's become the fifth league now. So it's going to be very tough to get out of.
Yeah, sadly, given Notts' current position, I think it's turkeys for Christmas, and I see no chance whatsoever of them extending the number of places available for promotion, because clearly the Football League clubs will vote to preserve their own status and will not, I am sure, reduce their chances of staying up each year. I think what has happened, Chloe, is that while Notts have been in the league, dropped into the National League, 3 what you would call non-league clubs, Harrogate, Barrow and Sutton, have filled 3 of the 4 places for promotion while Notts have been in this division. None of those 3 have come back down. So we're in a situation whereby 3 more league clubs have come down, Torquay have come up. So you've effectively now got 4 what would, for most of their lifespans, be established Football League clubs in this division. And you're also then having a scenario whereby some of these clubs, Stockport went down to National League North. They have got wealthy benefactors. There are no salary caps in this division. And clearly, Notts are 3rd favourites, I believe, behind Wrexham and Stockport. I think this is the toughest year of the lot to get out by quite a way.
Absolutely. I think everybody goes on about how difficult this league is to get out of, and I don't think any of us really realised until we were in it. And I think it really hit home for me, that very first game against Eastleigh. It was kind of one of the smallest grounds I'd kind of been to in an actual league game. And it was kind of like in the middle of nowhere. It was a long way to travel, and we got 2 men sent off and we lost. And it was kind of like, this isn't going to be as easy as maybe anyone thought. And we've been here for a couple of seasons now, and it just kind of seems to be getting harder. There's always a team, if not 2, if not 3, floating around that kind of top 8, top 7 that you don't expect to be there at the start of the season. You've always got to take that into consideration. There's also going to be teams that you do expect to be there and that will be there, and also teams that you would expect to be there maybe drop off. It's such a unpredictable league, and you'd never want to kind of say at the beginning of the season what your prediction is, because you end up being completely wrong. It's just one of them that I don't think you realise, like you say, until you're in it, how difficult it is. And I kind of look at Grimsby and Southend, and you expect them to be half decent, but they might come in with an expectation of we're the latest newcomers, we'll be all right, and I think they'll be in for a shock. But like you say, there's a lot of teams this season that's made a lot of big signings, and it's kind of, you're getting more prestigious players, if you want to call them that, coming into the league every season because they know how competitive it is. We talk about there only being kind of that one top spot that goes up. That makes it very difficult, but also the teams that are now competing in it and the players at those teams, it's a really, really difficult league and it's very competitive. But I'll keep banging on about how important being a team is and consistency. It's very easy to sign all of these players on however many thousands they're on a week, which you kind of expect at maybe a League One, League Two club. And we're now dropping down to the National League and they're on this kind of money, and you bring them in for whatever price tag and you think this is going to take us up. And that doesn't tend to be the case. Obviously, it always helps having someone that's like that. But like Les says, you see teams like Harrogate and Sutton and people that didn't really have star players, and consistency and kind of having the same team all the way out through the season kind of gets you out of this league. And consistency, like you say, good away performances, winning the games that maybe you shouldn't win, that's what takes you up. Getting those points that on a Tuesday night and it's raining and you're kind of holding out for even a point or 3 points, that's what gets you out of this league. But you've just got to take the consistency, and we have got a couple of those star players, but I'd like to say that we've got a couple more than those, than just that one player that you're relying on. And hopefully they're all going to chip away and chip in with some goals this season. It'll be belong, hopefully.
Les, how important, we obviously have through the owners business models with Football Radar, very well advanced in terms of football statistical data and analysis. And obviously that forms a part of the process of recruiting new players. How important is mentality, team spirit, camaraderie?
100%. That's top of the list. It's all right having the data, but you need to find out about that person. Is he going to integrate into the dressing room and complement the group? You could have a player, it could be the best player that's around, worth a lot of money, and he comes in and he lets everybody know how good he is, and they don't like it and they don't play with him. That can happen if it's very, very important for the manager to do his homework on that player and find out that he is going to integrate into that dressing room and gel with the rest of the lads before ever bringing that player in. Definitely.
I think Ian has mentioned in some of his interviews that he likes to sit down with the player, talk with them, understand a little bit more about their character, what they're about, their ambitions, their aspirations, and whether they kind of fit into what is wanted to be achieved and delivered at Notts. I think, Chloe, clearly Wrexham and Stockport spent a lot of money, and they have signed some marquee players, the likes of which 18 months ago you would not have expected Paddy Madden to be leading the line at Stockport, and you certainly wouldn't have been expecting Paul Mullen to be leading the line at Wrexham. It's a double-edged sword, as you've kind of mentioned already. You spend money, expectation with fans. I am guessing, and we hope to have a special show before the start of the season with Robbie Savage, my good friend, joining us to fly the flag for Wrexham, and Ollie Holt, who we've had on before, the Mail on Sunday's chief sports writer, flying the flag for Stockport. Those clubs are going to be everything that we are saying as a Notts fan. They are going to be saying there, and we're all full of the joys of spring at the minute. But it's amazing the ups and downs that will lie in store for all of us as fans, as clubs and players, the moment that first Saturday game is kicked off and finished.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a hell of a season, like we say. what's going to happen? You just don't know. You speak to fans of different clubs and they all think it's their year, and it's very easy to say, oh, look, we're looking forward to this year. We've got these players. But it's difficult to say when you haven't seen any of the other teams. Obviously, you don't really get to see their pre-seasons. You don't know what their injuries are going to be like. And I think we always say the key number is them first 10 games. You kind of get a bit of a picture as to where teams are at. It's always difficult in them first few games. Kind of a lot of teams that kind of sign a lot of players. Do they get playing with each other? How quickly are they going to click? I think the good thing about the group of lads that we've brought in is we've kind of kept the backbone, added some quality, but those players that have come in, they've all said in every one of their interviews how much they've enjoyed training, how much they've enjoyed being in with the squad, how they get along with everyone. And like we say, that's so important going forward. And it's going to be, again, a very exciting season for everyone involved. And you just don't know when teams are going to pop out from. We saw that Chesterfield last season, halfway through the season, you thought they've got no chance. And then all of a sudden, a few games get played and then they're chipping away at playoffs. So you can't rule anyone out, even at Christmas, I don't think.
Absolutely. We're going to the last 10 minutes of the show. Bit of advance news. We're coming up to, quite unbelievably, really, 100 shows in the past year. And to mark our 100th show, we've been liaising with the club and a very prominent Notts player. So thank you to both. And so later this week, we will be going one-on-one with one of the senior Notts professionals. We will reveal all in 9 minutes' time. But if on the message board you have any views on who you would like to see, Richard Brindley's obviously went very, very well. And so it will be a similar type of full in-depth interview. This guy's quite a character, I can tell you. So have a few stabs and guesses. Leslie, I don't think you know. So don't say anything if you do. And I don't think you know Chloe. You might do, but I don't think you do. Okay, so $64,000 question, Leslie. Who's your money on? Who's your money on this year? Other than us, you know, who gives us the biggest threat?
If I make, it will be a guess.
Yeah.
You know, we've touched on other clubs making big signings, and we're talking about Mullins going to Wrexham. Prior to last season, I don't think any season in football had he scored any goals. He has scored 32 goals last year, playing matches with no crowds. And I wonder whether he is one of those players that maybe doesn't like, he can play without pressure. It's a big question mark over his head. And obviously, everybody knows why he's gone to Wrexham. And so his playing colleagues know as well. And if he doesn't perform, those playing colleagues are going to start asking questions. How come he's earning all that much more money than us? And frictions can come up. We had a similar situation 50 years ago when Tony Aitley was brought into Notts County. We were going pretty well at the time, and he came in, and we knew that he was getting a lot more money than the rest, but he did it. He scored the goals, and he well earned it, and because of that, the rest of the players respected that. So just because these players are being signed on with these clubs, it doesn't automatically mean that they're going to be there. I would find it tough to make. It would be a wild guess, because I like to see the season settle down and see 6 games and then 10 games and then form an opinion. But I will be very disappointed if we're not in that top 6 in the early stages. We've got the nucleus of a very strong group together now. They need matches to get to know each other and move on. As I say, I would there will definitely be a club from nowhere,
Yeah.
Like there has been in the past, like the Harrogates, like the Barrows, and like Sutton last year, that will be up there. Who that is, I don't know. But Southend have got a very capable manager. I don't know what sort of recruitment they've had since relegation. Grimsby, all those clubs are well capable of being up at the top of the league. Don't you know what I mean? It'll just be a pure guess, Paul. I'd just be giving you a name, and I wouldn't have a clue until it settles down.
Yeah, it's an interesting little story you told about Tony Haitley. I remember speaking to his son, Mark Haitley, who was in Glasgow, and we're having a long chat about when he was growing up on Mapley Top, because that's where Tony moved to, wasn't it? And Mark told me a story about how his dad, Tony, signed for Notts. And as you quite rightly say, there was a big contract, but there was also, a little bit unofficially in the day, as it often was, Tony had negotiated I don't know whether you ever heard this, Tony had negotiated a crowd clause in his contract, so that if the crowd rose above, and I think it was 10,000, Tony got a little inverted commas percentage, and I think first or second game we got about 15,000, and of course towards the end of the season you get
his first game was Northampton at home, and there was 21,000 plus there.
He had a few quid that day then, did he? All unofficial and all allegedly, right? And I'm sure I misheard his son Mark tell me the story. But when I wrote the book, I put that to Jack, done it. Sadly, he's passed away. And Jack, quick as a flash, no, would never do that, against the rules. I thought, oh, okay. But you know and I know, Jack broke a few rules. Didn't Don have a little different type of contract as well at the end of the season? You've gone coy on me now, Les, haven't you?
So, say again, sorry.
Didn't Don have a little, shall we say, extra special clause in his contract?
Well, there's all sorts of rumours flying around, but we did used to see Jack done it with our chairman with a brown envelope passing to Don on several occasions as the coach returned back.
Allegedly. I'm sure your eyesight let you down, Leslie.
Yeah.
Killer Line says biggest threat will be Stockport. I agree with Leslie. Wrexham, time bomb waiting to go off. If we sign that other striker, says Zedo, who will score 15 to 20 goals, your key players stay fit, a few ifs there, then promotion. A striker who is work in progress for the future, then playoffs. Now then, Chris Jordan, in terms of who's the player we've got lined up, says Jim O'Brien. Richard Hawksworth says J.O.B. Matt Ben Knott, Jim O'Brien. Ian Burchnall, Jim O'Brien. Moddy Moby, Jim O'Brien. So, therefore, clearly, it is not Jim O'Brien. So I don't know quite why there was a rush on Jim O'Brien, and clearly we'll have to open discussions with Jim later in the season. But no one's mentioned the name yet. Chloe, you're allegedly a full-time student, but you know that's only about 26 weeks of the year these days, isn't it? So Manchester, are you hearing much coming out of Stockport? Have any Stockport fans near you when you're in lodgings in Manchester?
Well, I'm sure they'll start piping up if they start off well, but I haven't been there since kind of March, April time, so I've stayed well away, but I'm sure I'll hear a lot through them. But I'm just looking forward to finally being able to go to the two grounds that are close to me, and Stockport and Chaltering, I'm sorry. I've been waiting for the past 2 years to be able to go to them because they're only like kind of 10 minutes away from me, and both times we've missed out because of COVID. So I'm looking forward to getting back up there and having the two games that are actually nearby to me, other than all the trips down south that we're going to have to go through again.
Yeah, I mean, my money for an outside bet, they finished very strongly last season, and on the face of it, you would think they don't stand a prayer. But we would have said that about Sutton. and we would have said that about Barrow. I think the guy's a decent manager. Daryl McMahon at Dagenham and Redbridge. They finished very well last season. You can hardly name a player, but then we couldn't really name anyone at Barrow. Harrogate, with the exception of John Steadman, he didn't start most of the games, or Sutton. At the start of last season. I wonder whether they might be a bit of an outside bet. Like Les says, there's always one team that comes out. There's always one team comes out that no one expects. I have a feeling that Wrexham, I think that's a huge amount of pressure on them. Huge amount of pressure. Because they're kind of catapulted from not having a chance to now being favourites. Stockport, there was a bit of pressure on them last season, I guess. So they would have learned to cope with that a little bit, and are clearly assembling, an in-depth squad as well as a starting 11. I think Paul Hurst is a good manager at this level. So and Grimsby, I believe, have had a takeover. But I think the challenge for Grimsby and Southend is going to be exactly the challenge that Notts faced. A lot of, fans, when they go to those grounds for the first time, the fans of those two clubs are going to be expecting them to win most games. And I think that's quite a lot of pressure to deal with, as we found at Notts, because we didn't start massively well. I do think, Les, Chloe's mentioned the first 10 games. There will be one team that wins 7 or 8 of their first 10 fixtures. And if it was a Wrexham or a Stockport, then I think they become quite hard to catch. We've never, I say never, we've only had 2 seasons. We've not particularly come out of the starting blocks in either of the 2 seasons that we've been down here yet.
No, we've not started well. Maybe that's because new players coming in, not got to know each other that well at the start of the season. In both seasons, as matches have progressed, we've got better, haven't we? It's a difficult one, Paul, to say. The teams that have really started well have been teams that have had the group together for a while. Last year, the year before, Barrow didn't start particularly well, did they, in that first season?
Barrow didn't. No, you're quite right. After 10, 11 games, they were bottom half, and then they went on a big run,
massive run. And then last year, Torquay started well, didn't they? They won so many matches, and then they dropped off. It's going to be very, very interesting. I think we'll be one team that's up there. Obviously, you've got to think that Wrexham and Stockport are going to be there as well. But, those first 10 games are going to be very interesting, aren't they?
You've got 1 minute. No one has got who the player is. It's not Callum Roberts, Lee Brearley. It's not Connell Rawlinson, Moddy Mowbray. We ain't got many left. Senior player. That's an interesting one. I'm just losing track. Ian Burchnall says Chesterfield shouldn't be ignored. Yeah, got a lot of stick, Chesterfield. I think they're not a dark horse because clearly they're an ex-league club, but they're not necessarily mentioned in the same breath as Wrexham, Stockport, or ourselves. I think Chesterfield might not be a bad bet. Not necessarily a popular bet, but then again, we're probably not that popular to 23 of the other National League teams, especially when we came down either. Chloe, what's your take on it?
Yeah, it's funny you should mention teams like Dagenham and Chesterfield, because they're the kind of couple that I had in my head. I've spoke to a couple of people about. Like we say, I think I was on a podcast a few weeks kind of before the end of the season. I think it was with Lee, and we were all saying Dagenham's in with a chance here of sneaking in because of how well they got themselves playing towards the end of the season. But like you say, it could be absolutely anybody, the team that you least expect. Chesterfield always kind of in and around, but I think we go back to kind of why, maybe a reason behind that we haven't started off so well. You've got to look at kind of what happened in the previous season, losing out on playoffs is never going to be an easy bounce back. Introducing new players after the relegation, it's never going to be easy. And I kind of look back to those seasons that we started with and that we didn't look so good. And I think you look back and it was kind of a feeling within the camp that we never got over them playoffs, that we never got over that Wembley final. And we kind of came back the next season, something didn't look quite right. But this season, there just seems to be a change within the mood at the club and the actual feeling we've got going into a season. So I'd like to see us have a good start for once. But yeah, in terms of who's going to be up there, you've got to be saying teams like Stockport that have made multiple very good signings seem to have a very good team going. But I've got the exact same opinion about Wrexham in the fact that Mullins, he's done it once. Is he going to do it again? There's a lot of pressure on one guy's shoulders, and that could quite quickly fall apart. But in the same breath, it could quite easily be the best thing that they've ever done, and it does take them up. But it's so difficult to predict. But I'd like to say that we get that second or third. I think that home fixture really helps, not having to play that quarterfinal. To get top is a big ask, always is. I'd like to say we'd get that second or third. I've had us down as third, but we'll see how it goes.
Interestingly, Paul, none of us have mentioned Neil Ardley and Solihull Moors.
The next question was going to be, Les, where do we think Solihull Moors will fit into the equation here? Yeah.
Interesting. Don't forget Neil.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, this is fast becoming some sort of sketch out of the two Ronnies or Morecambe and Wise. We've had another 17 guesses here. I'll tell you if any of them are right. NCFC Pie, Slocum, no. Chris Jordan, Doyler, no. Matt Ben Knott, Slocum, no. Killer Line, Doyle, no. Moddy Moby, Ruben is my third guess, no. Zedo, Doyler or Big Sam, two there, no. Lee Brearley, Chickson, no. NCFC Pie Wharton, no. Chris Jordan, Lacey, no. But is there anybody left? Come on, people. Right, I'll have to give you a ridiculously easy clue. Right, everyone is enthused about him tonight on this show. Come on, let's see who gets the name first. Come on, typing on them keyboards. Come on. Killer Line says Notts will win the league. That's not the question. Chris B and NCFC Pie have both gone in for Dion Kelly-Evans, the winner of the Magpie Circle Player of the Year last year. No. God, blimey, is anyone going to get it? Well, I'm going off air in a minute. Chris B, Palmer, no. Ian Burchnall, you're getting close. New captain. So it is Zedo. We get there in the end. Jesus Christ. Kyle Cameron. Yes, been speaking to Kyle for a couple of weeks. Spoken with the club. My thanks to the club. So Kyle is going to be one-on-one. Very good of them after we've agreed he's going to come on the show that they announce him as captain. Even better. So Kyle Cameron will be one-on-one for our 100th show. We're doing it later this week. Should be a good one. He's got a bit of an edge to him. He'll be dishing the dirt on Callum Roberts. As a magpie of the noughties, Chloe, what do we reckon of Kel's new haircut? Can he carry it off like Phil Foden?
To be fair to him, I think he'd probably argue that he got there before Foden did. So, no, but... Well, if he kind of plays like Foden or even Messi when he had that haircut, I'll be more than happy. Everyone calls him the Geordie Messi. So if he can carry that along, I think everyone will be happy and just stay fit. That's all I ask of him. Just don't, please, get injured. Not a long-term one anyway. We rely on him this season without putting too much pressure on him.
Well, I'm sure we all echo those thoughts for Kel. So we've got into a bit of overtime on the basis of our audience struggled a bit to get the player, but hopefully you will like listening to the new, as in Lee Wood heard those words, didn't he? And the new. So we've got and the new club captain Kyle Cameron. Chloe, thank you very much indeed for joining us as always. Leslie, great to have you on board. Hope you won at golf today, by the way. Hope you won at golf. You're a bit of a
36 points today.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
Veterans Cup.
Very good. So we're gonna finish now. Kyle Cameron is coming up, our 100th show. Please don't forget to subscribe, absolutely free of charge. Look forward to seeing you all later in the week with Kyle Cameron, and we will be back next Monday, post York, ahead of Solihull Moors, and just 2 weeks before the start of the season. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Les, and thank you to you all for listening and watching tonight.